Hello and welcome back to this week's edition of the MHS Coaches Show. Ryan Lindley, I'm Eric Myers, and we're dealing with the wonderful trials and tribulations of spring sports currently, aren't we, Coach?
We are. It's really interesting. I don't know if everybody realizes. I mean, you look outside, you're like, wow, spring weather is crazy. But it's even more crazy, I think, from a coaching standpoint, because basically every spring sport we have here is an outdoor sport.
Yeah, and it's chaotic, right? So one day it might be sunny, but it's 50, no wind, which is okay, kind of cool. Next day it's 35 and snowing, followed by a 55 day with suns, but the wind is at 25 to 35 miles an hour. So if you're running the 400, your time just went from 60 seconds to 44 seconds. It is unpredictable, not to mention snow, rain, ice, sunshine, monsoons. I mean, it's just crazy.
You never know what you're going to get. And I think that's what presents a lot of challenges to our spring sports coaches. I mean, we've had a few events in track, but most of those have been indoor meets, which, I mean, thankfully track's able to do that. But it's been a tremendous challenge for the outdoor sports.
Yeah, it is a huge challenge. Like we get the opportunity to talk to Coach DeLong later in this, but, just going through girls soccer, inside, outside, baseball, inside, outside, softball. I was talking to Coach Beard today, and they've had one outside practice. I mean, we've been a little bit luckier there that we've had a couple more outside practices, but that instability and then starting our game start this week. So not having those on-the-field outside practice times make it really tough to have those games.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I mean, there's a scenario where, your first game for softball or baseball might be maybe your second or third time on a field all season. You've had 3 weeks of practice, but the majority of that has been in a gym. So it's just kind of crazy.
It is very crazy. So we're filming this on a Tuesday. It is 1:52. We have practice in an hour. We are scheduled to inter-squad scrimmage each other today. And we still don't know if it's going to rain in an hour. So we're crossing our fingers that we get one of these outside practices. But we did have that opportunity to sit down and talk about boys tennis, didn't we?
We did. We talked about boys tennis. We had a couple of our seniors, MJ Kaufman and Blake Shoemaker, with us, and they gave us some insights into tennis. I feel like tennis is a sport people don't know a ton about. So let's give a chance and look at that interview right now. Welcome back to our coaches show here. We've got two of our tennis players here, Ryan Lindley, and I'll let these guys introduce themselves. So we'll start over here.
My name's MJ Kaufman, senior here. Been playing for the Tennis Potter since freshman year.
And we're going over here.
I'm Blake Shoemaker, 4-year player and captain of the varsity tennis team.
Well, guys, we appreciate you taking your time. MJ, let's start with this. You were just talking about this. I think it's a really cool point. Talk to me about what's a typical tennis practice, because I feel like not a lot of people really know what goes on in tennis practice.
Okay, so we start practice with the mantra, which just gets us in the mood to start playing some tennis, bring forth some effort, and then we head into some footwork drills and then some conditioning, and then there we start tennis drills, actually hitting the ball, and whatever we need to work on for the season.
Awesome. And then Blake, kind of similar question, but just what are maybe some of the things that you feel like the team needs to work on this year? I mean, maybe even you individually, but stuff that has kind of been the focus of practice so far.
I feel like backhands are a really big focus. Serves are really important for the game, but yeah, just backhands, especially for some of the newer guys like Joe Campbell. It's really something you need to work on if you're new to the game and don't have much experience.
Gotcha. And then MJ, obviously, again, as somebody that's played a lot of tennis, is there maybe like an individual skill that you're working on to try to maybe just take your game to like that next level?
Yeah, so one important part of tennis is the second serve. So if you don't get your first serve in, you get another shot at the serve. And a lot of people just hit a slower serve, just trying to get it in. But I've been working on trying to get that serve to actually be a threat to the other opponent.
Awesome. And then Blake, let's just jump over to you again here for this one. So you've obviously, again, like MJ, you're a guy that's played a ton of tennis. Is there maybe like one highlight in your career that you look back and you're like, yeah, that was like my best moment on a tennis court?
I would have to say when I was playing doubles with my partner and other captain, Aiden Belsley. We were playing against some of our other teammates, Carter and Joe Campbell, as I said earlier, but I hit a monster spike just straight into Joe's stomach, and that was pretty funny.
So, MJ, let's jump over here and talk to you a little bit. Just talk to me about kind of, like, tennis can be a very mental game, right? Because, like, you talk about, yeah, like that first serve, second serve, kind of, what are some of the things you do to kind of be solid mentally as much as physically?
It might sound a little weird, but just kind of talking to yourself, making sure you're staying focused and all that type of stuff. Because tennis, when you mess up, there's only one person to blame. It's your yourself, so it's an extremely mental game. But yeah, I just try to look for my coach for a little bit for some guidance, but just trying to stay focused is the biggest part.
Awesome. And then Blake, just talk to me about goals. So like this year at the end of the season, what are you kind of hoping to accomplish?
I want to bring in more spectators to tennis. I think it's fun, underrated game to watch for sure. And as a team, I think we want to do really well in state, honestly, because we got a lot of second-year players on varsity, so that have already been to state. So I want that state championship, honestly.
Yes, sir.
And then last question for both of you guys, and you can do this in any order that you want, but is there like somebody you look up to in the game of tennis, whether it's, somebody that played here or a coach or a professional player? Like, is there anybody that you kind of admire and you maybe like kind of sort of craft your game after?
For me personally, I was a big Roger Federer fan, but he retired. So for a current player, it would have to be Nick Kyrgios. I know he's not the best example, but he's just an electrifying player and fun to watch.
All right, and then Blake?
I would have to go with my coach, Kevin Miller. He's a grinder. He'll never let a point get by him, no matter how hard the shot looks. I just kind of replicate my game after that, go to every ball as fast as I can, and every point matters equally. You want to win that point.
Awesome. Well, guys, we thank you for taking the time, and folks, stick around. We'll be back with more right after this.
Wow. So you had that opportunity there to talk to Shoes and MJ, and they're really excited about their senior tennis seasons right here. Lots of good things happening out there on the tennis courts, and I think let's echo Blake's comments there. Let's get more people to go out and watch tennis.
Yeah, absolutely. And, obviously those guys are working hard, and Coach Miller seems to have them working on some skills. Blake talked about that idea that, kind of being that grinder type player. So, I think it's interesting to see. I'm hoping to maybe, I'll be honest, I haven't seen a whole lot of tennis at Morton High School, so hopefully maybe get out there this year and catch a match or two.
I know some of their big stuff are under the lights too, so which is always a cool atmosphere for any high school sport to go under the lights at night. So if you guys are out there, obviously head out to the Stanford tennis courts out there and check them out this year. So what else have we got going on?
So we did have a chance to chat with Coach DeLong, girls soccer head coach, and again, haven't played a game yet. They're supposed to have played a game, but it goes back to our comments earlier in the show. Weather just makes it more difficult.
Last Saturday it was snowing and 32 degrees, so probably not the best day to play a girls soccer game.
Yeah, they were not able to play last Saturday. They are scheduled to play 2 games this week. Coach DeLong gives us some insight into the challenges of practice, and he gives us a little bit of preview of those 2 games. So, folks, we're going to roll that interview right now. Welcome back to our MPTV Coaches Show. Ryan Lindley and our head girls soccer coach, Tori DeLong. And Coach, obviously haven't played a game yet, but just kind of talk about this practice so far, maybe just some of the challenges of being an outdoor sport in the spring in Illinois.
It is a challenge with the weather especially, and luckily we have a good relationship with our park district that we've made arrangements to where if we know ahead of time weather's going to be bad, we can go inside. And we split up the girls. We have the varsity go in the morning, the JV go in the afternoon, which allows us to have plenty of room still. But it is a challenge. We've lost a game because it was 36 degrees out with 20-mile-per-hour winds already, and so not lost the actual game on the scoreboard, but has to be rescheduled. And it's looking rough for this week as far as the weather goes as well. So we're just at this point we're just chomping at the bit to try to get a game in.
Talk to me a little bit about kind of that dynamic too, in terms of you think you're going to play, ready to go, and then suddenly you realize you're not going to play. How does that kind of change the dynamic of practice or things of that nature?
It can get a little frustrating because we really don't know with certainty what we need to work on. We don't know our weaknesses until we get tested, right? And so just to get a game or 2 under our belt, and then we can kind of walk away from that and go, okay, we need to work on this aspect or that aspect. It's easy to feel good about things because right now we're just going against each other. We haven't had that intensity yet and things like that to come with playing a game. And so really looking forward to that so we can figure out what we're doing, if we're doing it correctly or if we got to make adjustments.
And so if we were going to play a game, what would be the next game scheduled to occur here?
This Thursday we're supposed to play United Township out of East Moline, and hopefully that goes through. It really will depend on how much water the storms actually bring, because it looks like there might be a gap. But will our field be saturated or will it drain well? And then we will be going to Rock Island on Saturday, and they play on turf, so that game should get done some way or another as long as there's not lightning.
All right, and then real quick, just kind of talk to me about, because we've talked about this practice, and we kind of experience it in baseball too. I always like this question though. How is an indoor practice different than an outdoor practice? Are there things you can't do inside that you have to kind of adjust, or what's kind of the dynamic there?
We try to take advantage of that we're on turf, and so we're practicing inside Friday regardless of what the weather is, only because Rock Island plays on turf. And so it's a nice fallback to get used to this. The way the ball bounces just a little bit differently. It's a different transition because the ball rolls true. And so sometimes it's good to just go in there or sneak on the football field on a day off where we can get used to that turf. But then it's also, being outside, there's way more that we can do. We can go 11v11. We don't have to worry about numbers. We can do more set pieces and things like that, because even if we attempt to practice corner kicks, we have to move the goals and shift things around to make it a true dimension. Otherwise, they're kicking to a much shorter target and things like that. So it can be frustrating. There's things we can replicate inside, but it's definitely more crowded, and we can't go full field, unfortunately.
And then our last question, just, I mean, you mentioned obviously the upcoming games, and hopefully those get played, but is there, like, looking long term at the season, any highlights on the schedule that maybe folks at home might want to be aware of, games that they might want to come and watch?
Well, we play Notre Dame Monday night. I know every year that's a fun game to come, and that's at our place, and hopefully the field holds up as far as the water and everything, and we get that in. Notre Dame will be a fun match. Dunlap's going to be good this year. What's going to be interesting is I really think there are 4 or 5 teams in the area that are strong, and so it's going to be about, like any game, who shows up that day and who could be consistent when they show up, who's going to come out on top in our region.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Coach, and folks, stick around. We'll be right back.
Wow, you had that opportunity. Coach DeLong is really excited about this season, right? Got some great leadership there. Battling the same thing that a lot of these spring coaches are, is inside, outside. They've got the ability to, soccer does play a little bit on turf that helps them out, preparing them for the Rock Island game here coming up. So good stuff happened in our girls soccer program.
Yeah, and I think the cool thing for them is they know that as long as you don't get terrible weather, like in terms of, like Coach was saying, storms or whatever, at least they know they'll have played one game by the time Monday night rolls around and they get Notre Dame at McClellan Park here in Morton. And so, I mean, I think that's really exciting. And it's kind of that mindset of, you know, you want to at least get that first game in, I feel like, because so many of those, you know, butterflies and such tend to go away after you've had that opener.
Yep, and those are the big things. And speaking of overs, I think we're supposed to have several baseball, softball games this week, pending weather again. I know that Friday night we're shooting for a St. Joseph Ogden game out at Westwood Park. I know the girls softball team's trying to play their games on Saturday, so lots of things happening all throughout here through the MHS sports world.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, just kind of reiterate that basically we're going to have 2 levels of baseball, at least allegedly, on Friday. Yeah, we're hoping. Fingers both crossed. But yeah, we're going to have 2 levels of baseball at home on Friday. Varsity is supposed to throw the first pitch of their season the day before. That would be Thursday. So, you know, if you're watching this on Thursday and it's earlier in the day, maybe you get out to Westwood Park again if the rain stays away. But hopefully when we come back to you in a week or two, we've got a bunch of results to talk about, and the weather is kind of broken, and we've got, you know, a bunch of sports playing and a ton of results.
Yeah, so speaking of sports results, Coach, how busted are your NCAA brackets?
Pretty busted. I'll tell you, this was, I will never claim to be a great picker of the NCAA tournament, but this year my bracket is so far off. I think the best plan would have been to have me picked against you, then your team almost certainly would have won.
Yeah, it's been a tough one. You know, great strategies out there for the underdogs, right?
Yeah.
So it's a huge positive right there. And it just proves that any team can win any single given game out there in any sport. So that's a great thing. But the one thing that I've taken away from this whole entire NCAA experience so far is the crowds, right? And you can tell when the crowd gets into it. So we would love to have you like, share, support not just this video, but come out to these sporting events too, whether it's baseball, softball, soccer, track, tennis, it doesn't matter. Come out and support your high school athletes. So, Coach, you want to end us up with anything?
Yeah, absolutely. Just again, reiterate what Coach Myers said. Again, come out, support the kids, get a chance to be involved in the community. I mean, there's really nothing quite like high school sports. And again, if you like what we do, make sure you like, share, subscribe, all the stuff here on the MPTV channel, not just the Coaches Show, but all the updates on grade schools and things going on at the high school and all of the above. So again, make sure you like, share, subscribe, some great stuff. We appreciate you tuning in every week. So for Eric Myers, I'm Ryan Lindley. Goodbye, everybody.